Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth their time and bandwidth. Today's game is The Darkness. Jackie Estacano's inner demons are now outer in this story-driven FPS. Is The Darkness still worth digging up today? Let's find out. The Darkness is a 2007 first-person shooter based on a comic book series of the same name, which I'll be honest, I've read nothing of and know nothing about. You play as Jackie Estacano, who on Jackie's 21st birthday inherited some kind of overwhelmingly demonic power called the Darkness, voiced by the incredible Mike Patton of Faith No More. Paulie, Jackie's mob boss uncle, isn't super into this, so he orders Jackie be whacked. And as Jackie, you've got to protect your girlfriend Jenny and various allies to try and take Paulie down and gain control of the mob. While the plot itself is a fairly basic revenge story, it's amped by some fantastic character writing and voice acting, which does a great job revealing just enough to keep everything intriguing but never over-explained. It also has some fantastic monologues from Jackie during loading screens to add plenty of mobster flavor. Gameplay itself is surprisingly simple. You could equip 2 handguns or a heavy gun, and the game provides some auto-aiming, kind of similar to GoldenEye 64, to make shooting easier. You'll be exploring several small zones connected by subway, with you actually needing to learn the layouts of these places to visit various characters and move the plot forward. There's also a small handful of side quests you can participate in as well. Jackie also dives into hell a few times thanks to his connection with the Darkness, which is represented by a World War I battlefield. These sections are generally more linear and combat focused, though they still share the game's penchant for storytelling. Now, of course, you have the Darkness to amplify your abilities, which can be activated if you're not in bright light. The Darkness acts kind of as a sort of health bar extension, but can also be sent to slither around to open doors and solve puzzles, attack with a tentacle, and eat hearts off enemies to gain power. There's a heavy emphasis on immersion here, with lots of walking around and getting absorbed in the environments and characters, with the shooting and combat often less relevant in non-hell areas. A lot of this game is walking around and talking to people if you dig that. And really, that's The Darkness, a story-focused comic book FPS with some evil powers, great characters, and high immersion. So what do I like about The Darkness? Well, the characters and voice acting, as mentioned, are fantastic, with Jen and The Darkness in particular being standouts in both their performances and scripts. It's very memorable. Additionally, the locations and atmosphere are just wild, with the game going from dingy, well-realized slum streets to World War I trenches, and not only being visually awesome, but somehow makes sense with the story. And lastly, what I personally like most about The Darkness is how unique it feels. It's a game willing to take its time and immerse you in its world and characters, and maybe even be a little too slow at times for the sake of atmosphere. You can tell it's just the same guys that made that Riddick Butcher Bay game, and while it doesn't always work, when it does, it really makes the game feel special. When it comes to the bad, while exploring the city definitely adds to the immersion, the game does a pretty mediocre job of pointing you towards where you should go, which is exacerbated by the map being borderline useless. Additionally, while the characters and writing are fantastic, it has some oddities around revealing key plot information and pacing when it comes to explaining what the Darkness actually is, why it's connected to Jackie, and what its role is in this overall story. And lastly, the shooting is fine, which is the most I can really say. It's not really spectacular. Combat and movement feel fairly slow, and Darkness powers come way too late in the game, and then don't have nearly as much impact as you think they should. As you know, I rate games on a 3-point scale. Must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. And The Darkness is a really unique first-person shooter that tries a lot of things and succeeds at a lot of things, but definitely not all of them. Its focus is on enveloping you in its atmosphere and story, and that pays dividends with the strong characters and unique vision, but it is marred somewhat by odd design decisions and some weird pacing. Regardless, if you enjoy FPS games with strong and interesting stories, or as mentioned, like that Riddick Butcher Bay game, The Darkness is still worth checking out even in 2025. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played or heard of The Darkness, the game was kind of a cult classic when it came out, and no one really talks about it anymore, but I'm curious if you played it and what you think about it. Please let me know in the comments, and regardless, go out there and give The Darkness a look.